Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about discipline without punishment. Now, when you hear that, it honestly sounds like something you read off of a Pinterest wallpaper with a chic navy blue background, and you think to yourself, ooh, I would really love to have that as my wallpaper, but what the hell do those words even mean? That's a bad introduction, but yes, today we're talking about discipline without punishment. I feel like a lot of us grew up equating discipline to punishment. Like you mess up and then you get punished by either your teachers or your parents, etc. As we grow up, I think we also continue punishing ourselves in different ways, right? Punishment is, I'm really trying to use punishment as a broad term here. Punishing yourself through negative self talk, punishing yourself by kind of restricting yourself to do something that you really love doing. And all of this suffering that you put yourself through is somehow supposed to help you take accountability for your mistake or your lack of discipline, and ultimately is supposed to motivate you out of the fear of not being punished again. Honestly, that whole concept sounds a bit bizarre to me, because what do you mean that you want to suffer in order to get disciplined towards something that is supposed to be better for you? Let me put things into perspective for you. You did not study the whole day, even though you were supposed to, because your exams are approaching. So tonight, you're just not going to go out with your friends. Not because you're going to stay at home and study. No, you're probably just going to, watch some TV and go to bed. But because the idea of not studying the whole day and then going out with your friends makes you feel guilty. Another example, you did not work out today and you really want to lose 2 pounds by the end of the week, so you're just going to eat a bit less. I don't want to talk about this more because we're stepping into the realms of ED, and that is not something I want to touch upon, at least in this video. But yes, I hope this helps put things into perspective. And I talk about these examples because I've lived through them. And it has taken a lot of self-reflection for me to analyze where this mentality of equating discipline with punishment comes from. And today, I want to share all my findings with you. Okay, so first things first. I feel like, to some extent, all of us expect perfection from ourselves. And even though deep in our subconscious we know that what's human is not perfect and what's perfect is not human, we still have this inner dialogue of, I know I can do better and I should be. And I don't want to call that outright toxic, because, there's nothing really toxic about believing in your own potential, but not so much so that you don't allow any room for slacking off. Which brings me to my very first and the most important finding. All of us know the concept of structured breaks, right? Like, I'll work out for an hour for 6 days a week, and then on Sunday I'm gonna take a break. All of us know that. We all know that it's unrealistic to say that I'm gonna work out for 2 hours, 7 days a week, no breaks, no cheat meals, none of that. We all know that's unhealthy. But I think we don't talk about those random Tuesday mornings where, for whatever reason, you just don't work out. Maybe you're emotionally tired, maybe you're physically sore. But because this is an unstructured break, not a break, not Sunday where you defined your break as, it is an unstructured break. It wasn't planned for. And for some reason, we don't allow ourselves to have enough unstructured breaks. And I think if we are talking about not being perfect and how none of us are perfect, we can't just ignore unstructured breaks. Think about a baby learning how to walk. It takes its first few steps on day one, and then there are a few days where it doesn't even stand up, right? That doesn't mean that the baby is never going to walk again. It probably just means that it is adapting to this new thing that it learned, and it needs to get comfortable with moving its leg in that way and, trying to balance. I mean, you get the concept, right? The baby needs time to naturalize walking for itself. All right, so now that we've established the fact that taking unstructured breaks or slacking off isn't really a deflection from consistency, but rather a part of it, let's talk about when we do slack off, why the hell do we default to punishment? Either through negative self-talk or by imposing restrictions upon ourselves or through making really harsh decisions. Why do we do that? Well, I think for me, I just talked about how all of us subconsciously expect perfection from ourselves. And I think for me, when I used to punish myself, it was not really slacking off, because in our heads, I think slacking off has a connotation of ignorance attached to it. And, if you're not being ignorant towards it, at least, by punishing yourself, does that really count as slacking off? Not really, because yes, you did slack off, but at least you're feeling bad about it. And let's be honest, who thinks to themselves, I slacked off, I made a mistake, I'm gonna do better tomorrow? I think there's only two groups of people who think that. Number one are people who've done a lot of therapy or are very emotionally mature. And two are people who just don't care about their lives enough to take slacking off seriously. And I think all of us are just so afraid of being in the latter category. And also, punishing yourself is easier than forgiving yourself. Am I right? Like, it is easy to just say, okay, I just won't eat today. Or, okay, I'm just gonna stay up the whole night trying to study before the exam. It is easy to make these harsh decisions, but it is difficult to forgive yourself. It is difficult to say, you know what? I know I made that mistake, and I am not going to take any harsh decision right now. I'm going to take accountability for it, but I'm not going to take any harsh decisions. Actually, that's interesting. I think I'm just coming to realize this. We're kind of subconsciously making a deal with ourselves, right? Where this thing of punishing ourselves is actually enabling us in the long term to make more mistakes, because you kind of allow yourself to slack off because you can just punish yourself later, and that might turn into a cycle which is extremely toxic and extremely exhausting, right? I mean, even when you go back to a person that you know is not right for you, you are counting on this person proving to you that they're not right for you again, or you coming to terms with the fact that you're not ready for this person. In any way, we're kind of counting on this punishment, this negative experience, to whip ourselves back into our discipline. And honestly, that sounds super unproductive to me. And that's when I came to the conclusion that punishing yourself, even if it is a way for you to get more disciplined, it sometimes has the opposite effect. It sometimes makes you feel like you're allowed to slack off because there's always this option to just punish yourself. Okay, so as it might come as a surprise to absolutely nobody, somewhere along this journey I realized that I needed to stop punishing myself. And it sounds really nice in theory, but what does that even mean in practice? Like, what do you mean I'm supposed to mess up by either slacking off or, doing a mistake or whatever, and just, accept it, tell myself that I'm going to do better the next time and move on? What does that even mean? What do you mean I can't cry about it the whole day? Or if it was really bad, cry about it the whole week. So, I don't want to be theoretical when I talk about this. I want to be very practical because the last thing I want to do is tell you to forgive yourself, because what does that even mean, right? I think the best way to describe it is to just be less dramatic about your mistake, or less dramatic about slacking off. And what do I mean by this? When you slack off, or let's say you miss a deadline, or you make a mistake, something that's not one of your top most proudest moments, instead of just telling all your friends about it, or telling your parents about it, or crying about it, that does help, okay? But instead of doing that, put on your favorite music. In fact, take your earphones, go out for a walk while you're listening to your favorite music. Go to your favorite cafe, get a latte, maybe even a little pastry. Look at the barista make your coffee. Look at the children running around in the cafe and their moms being annoyed by that. Look at all the finance bros working, if it is that kind of a cafe. And pull out your journal and write down everything that you're grateful for, be it something as simple as being alive and having friends and family, and just living in a world where, we have internet and you can literally know anything at the click of a few buttons and be whoever you want to be. Basically, distract yourself. Okay, just try to do it in a healthy way. Don't distract yourself by, drinking or smoking or any of those bad habits. I would never ask you to do any of that. But yes, I am asking you to distract yourself enough for you to be able to look at the bigger picture. Because when you look at the bigger picture of life, when you look at, kids running around in a cafe, or that's a bad example. I don't think kids run around in a cafe. It's not a field. But when you step outside into the world, I think a very beautiful thing happens where you come to realize that whatever you messed up, or whatever you were inconsistent towards, or, whatever you're slacking off, it doesn't really matter. This barista would be here even if you went to the gym for 2 hours. This kid would cry about not going to the playground even if you studied for 3 hours. And I'm not saying that that's a very healthy way to look at it, but it does get comforting when you're somebody that tends to dwell on their mistakes for a very long time. I think that helps put things into perspective for you, and helps you ultimately realize that you did mess up and you are going to take accountability for it. And as long as you're taking accountability for it, there is no reason to talk to yourself too much about it and make it a bigger deal than what it actually is. That sounds so mean. Oh my god. I'm never gonna say that again, okay? Also, I don't mean to say that going out on a walk, listening to your favorite music, and drinking a latte is going to, not let you do any negative self-talk. But what it does do is it introduces more narratives in your head, which hopefully does not leave any room for negative self-talk. And when you get back home at the end of the day, you have a more holistic view of the day. You see this day as a day where you might have not been consistent towards a goal that you wanted to be consistent in, but that's okay, because in the grander scheme of things, you had a good experience today regardless. And you know what? At the end of the day, that is way more important than any kind of consistency that you ever build. Having a good relationship with yourself, Having days where you can look back on and tell to yourself, you know what? I messed up that day, but I didn't make a big deal out of it. I didn't let myself feel too bad about it. Instead, I went out to my favorite cafe and I had a latte and I made a good memory out of that day. Long term, I'm telling you, having this positive relationship with yourself is so much more valuable than whatever you're striving to be consistent towards. And you know what's the best part? Even if you don't agree with anything I said throughout this whole video, it is still just a day. It is just a day. It was one bad day, and tomorrow is going to be a fresh new day where you can be consistent. You still have the option to be disciplined in the upcoming days. It is just the difference between getting disciplined out of the fear of a self-imposed punishment or being disciplined because you just trust yourself. And let me tell you, people, the other side is beautiful. I want to share something that recently happened, which I'm really, really proud of, because I'm new to this whole messing up without punishing myself thing. I had a really important appointment like 3 days back, and I forgot to bring a really, necessary document to this appointment, which sucked because I had to reschedule. And this place of appointment is like an hour away from my house, and I have to make that hour-long trip probably again. I kind of wasted a few people's time, and a lot of people were also kind of counting on me to do this appointment, and it kind of delayed the whole thing by a week. And you know what I did? I did not beat myself up for it. Yes, I did feel bad for it for 5 minutes. Actually, not even 5 minutes. I think I'm just saying 5 minutes because it took me some time to own up to the fact that I messed up, and then I had to reschedule, and then I, profusely apologized to the people for kind of wasting their time. And I did take accountability for it, right? And I think the 5 minutes was truly just taking accountability for my mistake. But I think I felt bad for it for like a minute. And then after I got out of the building, I took myself out for lunch at a really nice Lebanese restaurant, which I've never tried before because I've never been in this area before. And it was amazing. It was just the most delicious, comforting food. It was light, but it was like super filling because, the flavors were just amazing. Okay. It was an amazing lunch. And honestly, I am glad I did that. Okay, now I can't wait for my rescheduled appointment because I'm probably gonna go to that Lebanese restaurant again and order exactly what I ordered again. And the mistake that I made of missing an important document is still there. I still took accountability for it. It just doesn't have more of an impact on my life beyond taking that accountability, if that makes sense. It genuinely felt so freeing. By the way, that experience that I just talked about, it almost felt like I had been living in a cage all my life with all of this negative self-talk, like somebody at the start of my life, or maybe when I was like 15 years old, gave me this rule book that if you mess up, you are supposed to feel bad about it for at least a day, spanning all the way up to a month, depending on how bad the mistake was. And it is really not that bad, you really can just decide to take accountability and then not feel bad for the mistake. Your actions can show accountability, and you can just be completely fine with going on with your day. I think that's beautiful, and I really would want more people to experience the joy of discipline without punishment. Okay, that was quite a bit of rant, but I hope you found this video interesting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.